Privy has the vision to be the global leader in digital trust, meaning that we are providing verified user-centric digital identity as well as legally binding digital signature. We would like to make sure everyone who would like to create a new bank account, opening up new insurance policy, applying for credit cards, applying for loans to fintechs, or even enrolling to university or applying for a job, do not need to repetitively prove their identity by filling out long and tedious registration forms. While on the other hand, the institutions also do not need to repetitively do a cost-consuming KYC process for the same person that has been verified by Privy. Australia is an important market for Privy because we need to prove that Privy's app is accepted in a developed country since we aim to be a global company. And Australia is Indonesia's closest neighbor, closest friend, which is a developed market. And me personally have a very deep connection with Australia. My high school curriculum was done in Australian curriculum, and I fell in love with Australia when the first time I visited Australia during my study trip. What we expect from the partnership with Catalyst is that Catalyst could come up with a good market entry study, which is very critical for our business judgment, like in which geographical area we should focus our operation on, as well as which industry should act as the entry point for our expansion there. As well as we expect Catalyst could introduce us to key potential customers or key government bodies in which we need to obtain licenses or certification from. We hope with this partnership with Catalyst, it will also force a stronger relationship between Indonesia and Australia.
Introducing the Indonesia-Australia Skills Exchange, your one-stop platform for training. The Indonesia-Australia Skills Exchange is where Australian education providers connect with Indonesian businesses seeking employee training. Browse through a broad range of training offerings relevant to your industry, either by entering keywords or by industry sector. Whether it's a specific skill or a variety of skill sets, select an offering based on how the training is structured. Short courses are best for those seeking to train in a new skill or skill set in a short period of time, customised to your training request. Micro-credentials suit those seeking online training over a couple of hours. If you are an Australian education provider, you can view businesses along with their requests for training and respond to their requests. Here too, you can post your course offerings. If you are an Indonesian business, you can browse through the many course offerings available or post a specific training request. Whatever your skilling needs, find them on the Indonesia-Australia Skills Exchange.
Privy has the vision to be the global leader in digital trust, meaning that we are providing verified user-centric digital identity as well as legally binding digital signature. We would like to make sure everyone who would like to create a new bank account, opening up new insurance policy, applying for credit cards, applying for loans to fintechs, or even enrolling to university or applying for a job, do not need to repetitively prove their identity by filling out long and tedious registration forms. While on the other hand, the institutions also do not need to repetitively do a cost-consuming KYC process for the same person that has been verified by Privy. Australia is an important market for Privy because we need to prove that Privy's app is accepted in a developed country since we aim to be a global company. And Australia is Indonesia's closest neighbor, closest friend, which is a developed market. And me personally have a very deep connection with Australia. My high school curriculum was done in Australian curriculum, and I fell in love with Australia when the first time I visited Australia during my study trip. What we expect from the partnership with Catalyst is that Catalyst could come up with a good market entry study, which is very critical for our business judgment, like in which geographical area we should focus our operation on, as well as which industry should act as the entry point for our expansion there. As well as we expect Catalyst could introduce us to key potential customers or key government bodies in which we need to obtain licenses or certification from. We hope with this partnership with Catalyst, it will also force a stronger relationship between Indonesia and Australia.
Introducing the Indonesia-Australia Skills Exchange, your one-stop platform for training. The Indonesia-Australia Skills Exchange is where Australian education providers connect with Indonesian businesses seeking employee training. Browse through a broad range of training offerings relevant to your industry, either by entering keywords or by industry sector. Whether it's a specific skill or a variety of skill sets, select an offering based on how the training is structured. Short courses are best for those seeking to train in a new skill or skill set in a short period of time, customised to your training request. Micro-credentials suit those seeking online training over a couple of hours. If you are an Australian education provider, you can view businesses along with their requests for training and respond to their requests. Here too, you can post your course offerings. If you are an Indonesian business, you can browse through the many course offerings available or post a specific training request. Whatever your skilling needs, find them on the Indonesia-Australia Skills Exchange.
Good evening, everybody. If you haven't already, please grab a plate of food, come and start making your way inside. We're going to start on the dot of 7 p.m. You've got 15 minutes.
Privy has the vision to be the global leader in digital trust, meaning that we are providing verified user-centric digital identity as well as legally binding digital signature. We would like to make sure everyone who would like to create a new bank account, opening up new insurance policy, applying for credit cards, applying for loans to fintechs, or even enrolling to university or applying for a job, do not need to repetitively prove their identity by filling out long and tedious registration forms. While on the other hand, the institutions also do not need to repetitively do a cost-consuming KYC process for the same person that has been verified by Privy. Australia is an important market for Privy because we need to prove that Privy's app is accepted in a developed country since we aim to be a global company. And Australia is Indonesia's closest neighbor, closest friend, which is a developed market. And me personally have a very deep connection with Australia. My high school curriculum was done in Australian curriculum, and I fell in love with Australia when the first time I visited Australia during my study trip. What we expect from the partnership with Catalyst is that Catalyst could come up with a good market entry study, which is very critical for our business judgment, like in which geographical area we should focus our operation on, as well as which industry should act as the entry point for our expansion there. As well as we expect Catalyst could introduce us to key potential customers or key government bodies in which we need to obtain licenses or certification from. We hope with this partnership with Catalyst, it will also force a stronger relationship between Indonesia and Australia.
Introducing the Indonesia-Australia Skills Exchange, your one-stop platform for training. The Indonesia-Australia Skills Exchange is where Australian education providers connect with Indonesian businesses seeking employee training. Browse through a broad range of training offerings relevant to your industry, either by entering keywords or by industry sector. Whether it's a specific skill or a variety of skill sets, select an offering based on how the training is structured. Short courses are best for those seeking to train in a new skill or skill set in a short period of time, customised to your training request. Micro-credentials suit those seeking online training over a couple of hours. If you are an Australian education provider, you can view businesses along with their requests for training and respond to their requests. Here too, you can post your course offerings. If you are an Indonesian business, you can browse through the many course offerings available or post a specific training request. Whatever your skilling needs, find them on the Indonesia-Australia Skills Exchange.
Privy has the vision to be the global leader in digital trust, meaning that we are providing verified user-centric digital identity as well as legally binding digital signature. We would like to make sure everyone who would like to create a new bank account, opening up new insurance policy, applying for credit cards, applying for loans to fintechs, or even enrolling to university or applying for a job, do not need to repetitively prove their identity by filling out long and tedious registration forms. While on the other hand, the institutions also do not need to repetitively do a cost-consuming KYC process for the same person that has been verified by Privy. Australia is an important market for Privy because we need to prove that Privy's app is accepted in a developed country since we aim to be a global company. And Australia is Indonesia's closest neighbor, closest friend, which is a developed market. And me personally have a very deep connection with Australia. My high school curriculum was done in Australian curriculum, and I fell in love with Australia when the first time I visited Australia during my study trip. What we expect from the partnership with Catalyst is that Catalyst could come up with a good market entry study, which is very critical for our business judgment, like in which geographical area we should focus our operation on, as well as which industry should act as the entry point for our expansion there, as well as we expect Catalyst could introduce us to key potential customers or key government bodies in which we need to obtain licenses or certification from. We hope with this partnership with Catalyst, it will also force a stronger relationship between Indonesia and Australia.
Introducing the Indonesia-Australia Skills Exchange, your one-stop platform for training. The Indonesia-Australia Skills Exchange is where Australian education providers connect with Indonesian businesses seeking employee training. Browse through a broad range of training offerings relevant to your industry, either by entering keywords or by industry sector. Whether it's a specific skill or a variety of skill sets, select an offering based on how the training is structured. Short courses are best for those seeking to train in a new skill or skill set in a short period of time, customised to your training request. Micro-credentials suit those seeking online training over a couple of hours. If you are an Australian education provider, you can view businesses along with their requests for training and respond to their requests. Here too, you can post your course offerings. If you are an Indonesian business, you can browse through the many course offerings available or post a specific training request. Whatever your skilling needs, find them on the Indonesia-Australia Skills Exchange.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Western. My name's Claire Ormerod. I'm the Business Engagement Manager with Catalyst. Tonight we have the pleasure and honour of co-hosting this event with the IABC. We're really happy to see familiar faces and also meet some new acquaintances. I'm sure everybody's very excited to be having some great conversations. We certainly hope that there will be some great conversations happening tonight. But we very respectfully ask that you either wait until after the formal part of the evening has completed to have those conversations, or if they're super urgent, please go outside the room. Let me begin by warmly welcoming our distinguished guests. Bapak Teguh Sambodo, Director of Industry, Tourism and Creative Economy with Bappenas. Welcome, Pak. Joining us online via Zoom in Canberra, we have Bapak Haris Setiawan, the Indonesian Trade Attaché. Welcome, Pak. It's quite late in Canberra. I think it's 11 p.m. in Canberra, so thank you for staying up and joining us. We really appreciate it. Mr. Tim Stapleton, Minister Councillor for Economic Investment and Infrastructure at the Australian Embassy in Jakarta. Pak Tim, welcome. And thank you to Pak George Mantika, the President of IABC, for the opportunity to team up. We'll hear from him just shortly. And also later on, go ahead and applaud. And also later on from Paul Bartlett, Director of Catalyst. We have some panellists ready to talk business. We have the CEO of Privy, Marshall Privati. Welcome. And again, also joining us online via Zoom, we have the Managing Director of Sky Credit Group, Paul Walsh, joining us from Perth. Welcome. Speaking of Zoom, we have other guests joining online from Australia this evening who are members of the AIBC and within the network of the Indonesian Consulate General in Perth. Welcome all. Let's get the ball rolling. Pak George, the floor is yours.
Thank you, everyone. It's an honor to be here, especially an honor to be able to partner with Catalyst, the Indonesian-Australian Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement Implementation Program. And for that, I'd like to again recognize and honor the Australian government through Tim Stapleton, who is the Minister Councillor at the Australian Embassy, and the Indonesian government, Pak Teguh, from Bappenas. So the two, you might say, main anchors of this Catalyst program. So this Catalyst program is supported by the Australian government and the Indonesian government. And the IA-CEPA obviously is a big deal for, the IA-CEPA is obviously a big deal for IABC, but also for our partners, Kadin Indonesia, Apindo, or the business sector here in Indonesia, because the IA-CEPA, or the IA-CEPA implementation program, was also, you might say, driven and given birth by these business partnership groups. Business partnership groups on the Australian end is our friends here from AIBC who are joining us from Australia, and also ACCI and AIG. And so with that, we are very, you might say, honored and really grateful to see that the implementation has gone this far. And you will hear, from Catalyst what programs are already being implemented. And obviously, in this space, you might say this is a new frontier. Well, it's not really new anymore. I think digital transformation is happening as we speak. But what will be the new frontiers of digital transformation? Because they say, as moral law says, technology only lasts for, professor from CQ, 24 hours. I mean, I think you said 6 months, but you've hastened the pace, So thank you, Professor. Because of that, and we're very honored, and I'd like to just quickly recognize the IABC board here. We have here from our board, Mr. obviously Tim Stapleton is our board of advisor. Ben Giles. Ben, why don't you stand up, Ben? He's our treasurer. And we have also Peter Fanning. Peter. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And we have Ibu Mariam here joining us today. And we have also our ED, Pa Arfat. Please stand up, Arfat. So if any of you are interested in IABC, please connect with Pa Arfat. And I have to say that IABC is supported by very committed sponsors, and we would like to recognize them. ANZ Bank is here from Miss Vivian Thodor, yeah? Vivian, are you here? Oh, not here yet, okay. Leah Rosmali from Bank Commonwealth, or Commonwealth Bank, well, Commonwealth Bank, or DIA, all right, Commonwealth Bank. And also, obviously, Catalyst, yeah, Catalyst, thank you for your support. And also the Western Australian government, and also New South Wales, yeah, New South Wales. So we are very much supported by these organizations. And New South Wales, do I see New South Wales? Ah, there you go. Jonathan, thank you, sir. And so we have also many guests here who have been with us, our members. Thank you to stick with us as members of IABC, and also guests from various business community. And I have an announcement to make, and that is that IABC is co-endorsing the Indo-Pacific Economic Forum Business Forum, which is the 18th of March. And for that, there is an invite to all of our members here to be able to attend, and you can register that with Arfat, our ED, if you are interested to attend. And we also have our partners from there, Kadi Indonesia, Ibu Estianti, yeah, please stand up, from Kadi Indonesia, who is organizing the Indo-Pacific Economic Forum Business Forum. So an interesting forum that will be conducted on the 18th of March. So again, thank you, Catalyst, and let's see where this new frontier of digital transformation would lead us. So obviously, thank you, Pak Marshall, yeah, Pak Marshall from Privy ID. And Privy ID is born from Jogja, from my hometown in Jogja. So thank you. And also Pak David Mitchell, who will be speaking. And also our colleagues from Sky Credit, yeah, that will be joining from Perth, I believe. Yeah. So thank you, everyone. And let's hear what this digital transformation is all about.
Terima kasih, Pak George. Matur nuwun. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get to it. Digital transformation is disrupting lives, but to what extent? And how can businesses make the most of this sweeping change? Let's welcome to the stage my colleague David Mitchell, the Advanced Manufacturing and Services Advisor at Catalyst. The stage is yours, Pat.
Thank you, Claire. So I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said, you know, when you're looking at the exponential curve, if you're looking to the past, it's flat. And if you look to the future, it's vertical. So the question is, in transformation and digital disruption, are you looking to the future, or are you looking to the past? So it's great to see everybody here. Let's have a little bit of a talk about what might be happening in the future. Can we roll the video? Oh, sorry. I thought it was going to be down here as well. So there are moments in time when you're living in a decade or so that changes everything forever. And one of those was in New York from 1900 to 1913. And at the beginning of the 1900s, all you saw was horses. And if you were in the incumbent industry, carriage making, housing livestock, feedstock, and you were told that there would be no horses in 10 years and there would be nothing but cars, you would have just said I was an idiot. Another time that happened was JFK, who gave a speech to Congress in 1961 off the back of the launch of Sputnik by the Russians, and he said, we're going to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade. And when Gallup did a poll, 58% of Americans said that they didn't really like that idea. But sure enough, a really aggressive program, 7 years, 2 months later, 20th of July, 1969, Neil Armstrong stepped onto the moon and opened up the exploration of space. And That's something that we now just take for granted. Where would you be without GPS? Where would you be without satellite communications, able to track aeroplanes all over the world, able to locate people? We took our telescopes off the top of our polluted mountains and we put them into space, and we looked back in time and we saw all sorts of amazing things that we never thought we'd ever see. And this is a private company launching its own satellites called Starlink, SpaceX. Who would have thought that that would happen, the colonisation of near-Earth orbit? And here we have a picture of an autonomous barge in the middle of the ocean and a rocket launcher coming back to Earth. There is nobody on that ship at all. Now, this company is run by a guy called Elon Musk, who you've probably heard of, and he thinks that we're going to colonise Mars. Now, I don't actually really believe that myself, but I've been wrong about quite a lot in the disruption space, and so I'm prepared to be wrong about that as well. Musk's also a guy that has completely disrupted electric mobility. He's not just making electric cars. He's making a whole interconnected transport. He's completely revolutionised the manufacturing. He has gigapresses. He makes it in far less time than anybody else and so much cheaper. All of the chips in the vehicle belong to him, coded by him, programmed by him, controllable by him. Completely different from the legacy automakers who buy all of their chips through OEMs, and once it's in the car, they can't do anything with it at all. Musk will send you an update every 3 months. So the car is forever new. Just imagine buying a computer that you couldn't update until you bought a new one. Unthinkable now. And the next thing that he started working on is charging. So of course you have charging at home. That's relatively straightforward. There's an app that talks to the car. It'll tell you when you need to charge. It'll stop at charging. It'll only charge it to 80%. But he's gone further than that. If you want to drive across the country, he has a whole network of superchargers that are all linked, and when you hop in the car and you program in where you want to go, it knows how much energy is left in your battery, and it tells you where you'll be stopping and for how long. The last thing that he's doing is something that we call autopilot. He calls FSD, and is probably heading towards autonomous vehicles. Here is, for the people on the other side, hands-off driving. Something that's relatively controversial, and it's not just on the freeway, it's through town. It recognises the roads, it knows where it is. Could we do that in Jakarta? Jakarta's different. We're not going to have really big EV cars here for a while to come yet. But what do you see here that filters between the traffic? Motorbikes. 120 million motorbikes in Indonesia. Government thinks that by 2030, 13 million of them will be electric. I think 100 million will be electric. Why? Cheaper, more reliable, better value. And so here's a battery swap company from Taiwan, GoGoRo. It's really easy. You don't have to worry about where to charge it. You just go to a station, pop a battery out, put a new battery in. Indonesia has companies doing the same thing, super innovative battery swapping technology, lots of swap stations, and they don't sell you the electricity, they just sell you electric kilometres and let you swap as much as you like. So you don't worry that you've got 20% left in your battery. You don't think that you've got to eke out the last little bit. You just swap. Swap at the beginning of the day, swap at the end of the day. You don't care. You just pay per kilometre. Once they get into loyalty programs and the super apps, if you spend enough money, you'll never pay to ride. Never. That brings me to the app eco-environment. Indonesia's great. I've been really blown away. I love Gojek and GoPay. That works for me. And we're becoming more and more integrated. I mean, my favourite friend is Siri. She never talks back. And you all know Alexa. She'll play you the right sort of music or book you a restaurant. But, you know, we're increasingly more exposed to the digital world. And that has a darker side because they have all your information. And so we have 22 character passwords. We have two-factor authentication. But still, it's an issue. And we need to know that the people we talk to on the other side of the computer screen are actually really people and not some awful Russian in a basement somewhere. No offence to Russians. And what about scammers and spammers and phishers and fakes? They're all there. So we need digital authentication and we need protection, because otherwise we'll all end up like the film Gattaca, that some of you will remember as the dystopian future, where you have to take some of your blood and they have to check your DNA to know that you are really you. And I hope we won't be there. And when I talk about deepfakes, what is reality? I mean, we've got ChatGPT, we've got generative AI, we have AI winning art competitions. And people go, oh yes, but you know, the heads look a bit funny. Yeah, but they won't next year. I mean, how do we know what is reality? I mean, that's AI, because she's got two thumbs. But really, it could just be an airbrushed model. It all just blends together. And the information, it's all there and it's all out there. So we don't need 2FA, we need HFA, human factor authentication. But let's come back to New York City. 1900, horses. In 10 years, it was going to be mostly cars. But the state of New York was on the case because on April 25th, 1901, they were the first jurisdiction in the USA to mandate license plates, which are still with us today. So thanks very much. I hope that's a little insight into what disruption has done, can do, will do. And we have a couple of great speakers tonight. We have Marshall Pribati from Privy, and we also have Paul Walsh a bit later from Sky Credit, both to talk about stuff. So Marshall, I'd like to welcome you to the stage, and please tell us all about Privy.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you so much for the Catalyst Australian Embassy for this great opportunity for me to introduce Privy to all of you, and distinguished Pak Teguh from BKPM and other distinguished members of the Australian embassies. Okay, so I'm Marshall Pribati, the CEO and founder of Privy. So Privy was founded in 2014, as Pak George already mentioned, in Jakarta. It's an hour flight from here. Yeah. So the idea was to have a single, universally accepted digital identity, so that every time we would like to sign up for something new, let's say opening up a bank account, insurance policy, applying for credit cards, applying for loans to fintech, for example, then we don't need to repetitively fill out our personal data like national ID number, name, address, date of birth, place of birth. In Indonesia, we have what is called RT, RW, kecamatan, kelurahan, and then your work address and stuff repetitively. And for the financial institutions, they also don't need to repetitively verify our ID as their prospective customers to perform know your customer obligation, right? So right now, they need to verify whether our personal data is correct. Second, they also need to do to make sure that we are who we claim to be. And with next, and with this digitalization, the challenge is even further, especially during the pandemics, right? In which a lot of financial institutions, right, they would like to fully onboard their customers without the need of any physical meetings, even without the need of signing on hard copy paper. And that's where Privy is bridging the digital trust gap. So first, we replace the need of face-to-face meeting to make sure the ID of the person we are dealing with, by two technologies. First is liveness detection, that up to date could detect any deepfake application. So if somebody is registering to open up, for example, Indonesia's biggest bank here, BRI, and let's say you're already a customer of BRI, you already have a saving account there, meaning you already put money there, like 10 million IDR, 100 million IDR and stuff, but you haven't had internet banking account yet, you only have an ATM card, and during the pandemic you would like to activate your internet banking without the need going to the branches, right? So BRI has been using Privy to verify that this person downloading BRI's mobile banking app called Brimo is a real human first. Second, that he is who he claims to be. So in order to do that, first you need to create a Privy ID, right? So you download Privy ID app, or you could also register for Privy ID through our merchants app, for instance, in that case, BRI's app, right? So what we do is first we take a picture of you with liveness detection technology, and our liveness detection technology could tell whether the person in front of the camera is a real human, so you're not putting a deepfake video of people that you got from Facebook, from YouTube and stuff, right? We also could detect even physical masks, right? If you have a photo of somebody with high resolution, you print it out into a physical mask, you put it on, our software could also detect that it is a mask instead of a real person. Second, we have a direct list line API connection to the server of the Indonesian Ministry of Homeland Affairs under the Directorate General of Population and Civil Registration, so that we verify the ID, of course, the national ID number, name, address, date of birth, and blah, 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 as well as the facial biometrics that is stored in the Ministry of Homeland Affairs database. So they're not sending any data to us, so we are sending them the user's photo taken with the liveness detection. And the Ministry of Homeland Affairs have already a very good infrastructure. They do the facial matching using a facial matching algorithm with database stored there. So actually with this, we are providing a KYC with a much higher trust factor compared to the traditional way. When you go to the bank's branches and you show your physical ID card to the bank's customer service officer, right? You could easily falsify this because this is physical, right? Everything is correct, data except the photo. Let's say I'm using Baba's KTP. I change this one. The bank customer service, okay, it's the same. Even if I don't change the photo, some is already blurry like mine, and the bank officer will just accept it. Oh, yeah, you didn't have beard before. Okay, you are getting fatter by 20 kilos. Okay lah, I trust you. Okay, but with this facial recognition technology standardized and has been tested by hundreds and millions of data samples, and this is much more accurate and secure. Okay. Once your data is verified, then Privy will issue what is called a digital certificate with a username called Privy ID. So every time you would like to, for instance, you sign up Privy ID because you are activating your BRI's internet banking, but you already got the Privy ID because of that, right? And afterwards, you would like to apply credit cards to Bank Mandiri, Bank BNI and stuff. You could just use your Privy ID to authenticate yourself, and you don't need to always repetitively fill out long and tedious form of your personal data, and the banks also do not need to repetitively verify your ID anymore. And with a digital certificate, you could also sign a document with a legally binding digital signature, in which the evidentiary power under Indonesian cyber law is the same with signing on hard copy paper. Next. Right. Yeah, so Privy started 2014, but we've got a lot of support from Indonesia's government. Even in early 2022, we got an award that we supported the nation's national economic recovery program post the pandemic, because if you guys are familiar, Indonesian financial sector has been quite resilient during the pandemic, and Privy one of the factor, because we are empowering most of the biggest banks, most of the biggest insurance, leasing companies, and also fintech in doing their business during the pandemic. Next. Okay, next please. Right, so up until today, we already have more than 37 million users in Indonesia. I believe this is more than Australian population. And we have more than 2,000 enterprise clients from various industries, and our own mobile app has been downloaded by more than 1.6 million. And you can see on the App Store and Google Play Store, we got 4.8 stars of rating. Next. Okay, maybe a bit a background of who is Privy, who is behind us. So our early rounds, if you can see, we are supported by mostly state-owned enterprises here in Indonesia. Mandiri Capital is a corporate VC of Bank Mandiri, one of the largest bank here. MDI is a corporate VC of Telkom Indonesia, the largest telco operator, which is a state-owned company as well. Gunung Sewu Group, Manusia Capital. Our Series A was led by Securometric, which is an expert in public infrastructure security in Southeast Asia. And followed by TMI, which is Telkomsel's corporate VC. Our Series B of financing led by GGV Capital. They're one of the best venture capital globally. And recently our Series C was led by KKR, the second largest private equity in the world, followed by Okta, one of the largest digital identity management company in the world, listed in the US, and Singtel Innovate, which is corporate VC of Singtel. Next. Last slide, I guess. Yeah, so our product is available be it on web, mobile app. I mean, also very flexible with API integration. Yeah, most of our big clients are integrating our solutions right into their apps. Or even, our solution is also commonly integrated to world's most known ERP softwares like SAP, for example, CRM softwares like Salesforce, for example. Next. Last slide. Yeah, here's some of the biggest clients from different industries as we've been serving in Indonesia. So yeah, we are looking forward for our expansion to Australia. We already hired a local team consists of five people, and of course it will be growing really soon. So we really hope that, I think Pak Haris is here through Zoom, right? He once said to me he would like to make Indonesian export not only in the forms of physical goods but also digital exports. I hope Privy could realize the dreams of our trade attaché now in Australia. So thank you so much for your time, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. That's a fascinating insight. I'm one of the 1.65 million users who's downloaded the app, but I really can't get past the first screen because I don't have an identity card from Indonesia. So, you know, I always test this stuff out. Our next speaker is the Managing Director of Sky Credit, Paul Walsh, and I think he deserves special recognition because he's stayed up late in Western Australia, not as late as Canberra, and we're really looking forward to hearing from him. They're doing a project with us where they're going to come and look at the two-wheel EV market, and so Paul, would be good to see you on the screen.
Can you see me on the video, David?
Yes, we can. Lovely. Thank you very much. Please take it away.
Right. Just confirming you can see the screenshot coming through?
Yep. Lovely.
Right. Okay. Well, David, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak tonight and the work you've been doing so far. The work with yourself and FIS has been really appreciative in terms of being able to steer us through the process and explore the opportunity with you. So I'm in Perth tonight, and I suppose firstly and foremost also just recognising the traditional owners of the land that we're on, the Whadjuk Noongar people of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. So part of WA where we're on the Swan River, and it's been a place of trade for thousands of years. So it's great to be able to continue that tradition and do that with you virtually tonight. So so I started Fego Finance in 2008. It's been a very interesting journey over that 15 years, and some of the concepts we'll talk about tonight. I think draw some parallels between the journey we've been on and what's ahead, I think, in the EV market. But again, we'll work with Catalyst to validate that. But in short, I mean, this is going to be the first time many of you or any of you have heard of a Sky Credit. So, like I said, founded it 15 years ago. We've funded over $500 million in consumer loans and consumer credit in that time. And it's really been on the back of some automation, really always a digital first offering with a national footprint. So as much as we're in Perth, our customers are all over Australia. And what we've been able to do in that time is consistently bring data together to design credit products, price credit, and distribute that credit at a really efficient rates, I suppose, market rates across the country. So where we sit, I mean, you've got members in the audience from Commonwealth Bank, ANZ. They're much bigger, obviously, balance sheet businesses than ourselves. We're in the near prime market, and that market in itself, the consumer behaviours, the consumer credit risk, the data availability of customers in that segment is very different to a low risk, large scale operation in the prime end of the market. So where you can rely on very traditional data sources, credit bureaus, etc. And so from our perspective, we've honed a bunch of skills and capabilities in that 15 years that have really led to our growth. And as you mentioned at the start, David, that growth has come in the last couple of years, with much of that our funding having been done in the last 2 years as those capabilities have come together. So yeah, we're a non-bank lender in the consumer market in Australia. It's really had a good growth journey over the 15 years. So I mean, disruption in itself isn't necessarily new. And in terms of financial or fintech evolution, we very much going to what's the third wave of fintech in emerging markets. If we go back to the early 2000s and before, you had microfinance groups enabling communities to access credit. We then rolled into a more of a digital environment, and now we're going to that third phase around the embedded finance product, and we're seeing that in different markets and at different segments of markets and niche products being evolved. But yeah, that embedded finance is certainly the next wave of fintech in emerging markets. So in addition to that, the mobility sector itself, that industry has attracted significant amounts of capital through various in public and private markets, and combine that with your ESG/sustainable development goals and government initiatives, it really is driving a new way of thinking, a new way of operating as those markets come together, both mobility and finance. So it's not new, but it certainly seems to be playing out in the mobility market and likely in Indonesia. So in terms of fintech organisations, so established organisations, ourselves or others can play a significant role in assisting developing markets to adopt behaviours or evolve in a far quicker way without maybe having to go through the same learning curve or that has gone on in the market where that was established. So from it's the behaviours, I suppose, and the rate of change in Australia, for example. I mean, last month we've seen now 7% of all all new vehicles being sold are EV vehicles. So that market in Australia was developed and gone on its own growth journey, and that growth journey is really now being accelerated at that collaboration, or from the collaboration between your manufacturers, your distributors, your installers, and you've seen that really accelerate solar panels, for example, and now you're going to see that really into other segments. And you're seeing finance products for EV vehicles in Australia, which are significant investments for consumers, being very much facilitated through low-cost finance, which is structured on the back of the ESG type funding requirements that banks have to meet, really accelerating the rate of adoption of these products. And where you've got existing providers who are late to change or resistant to change, the collaboration aspects between those different new market participants really are driving the adoption of new products, but also then forcing incumbents to act. And that's really an exciting journey, and part of what we've been on, and I think is something that we can really help with as we explore this opportunity. So the Indonesian opportunity itself, I mean, look, there's a number of characteristics that really stand out that make this opportunity attractive. I mean, firstly, I mean, like Marshall was saying, his number of downloads, I think, are greater than our population. So, the size of the market in itself in Indonesia is significantly bigger than the one we're operating in at the moment. The support that the government has stated and clear objectives around transitioning from 100% of internal combustion to 0% of internal combustion by 2050, with short-term goals of sort of 10% or thereabouts to EV adoption. They're very encouraging for markets, for people looking to participate in markets. The confidence it can give to those participants are fantastic. The other aspect is understanding Indonesia is now over 80% in that mobile adoption, smartphone adoption. And that smartphone adoption, is a great way of ensuring financial inclusion across the economy and across the population. As I've mentioned, that's a key aspect of that second wave of fintech, and it's certainly a key aspect of that third wave of embedding services and credit, and whether that's freeing up people's cash flow to whether you're a consumer or whether you're a shop owner, those embedded options to enable financial inclusion, access to credit, and ensure financial resilience. So they're they're very key, very strong characteristics that make this opportunity attractive, and things that we feel will be key to perhaps breaking down some of the barriers to financing of the EV vehicle, which we know and understand to be more difficult to finance relative to the internal combustion engines in the market at the moment. So there's some things we don't know about the Indonesian market, and I think that's where the market definition and analysis process we're going through with Catalyst has been a really good way of taking away some of that risk from our perspective, understanding, and being able to engage someone locally to really inform us around consumer expectations, availability of credit, or credit information, and how we'll support credit decisions, as well as credit products that are available in the market and what a customer expectation is on that. So it's an exciting conversation to be a part of, and we're really grateful for the opportunity. So in terms of the journey we've been on and the growth rates we've experienced certainly over the last couple of years, as these, they've largely been a result of the capabilities that we've got, and those capabilities have been developed over time and really helped us to go from a single employee being myself to now having customers all over Australia and having ticked a significant number of milestones in our journey. So from that perspective, we've built out data over time, and we've been able to bring different sets of data together to really identify what it predicts risk. And from our perspective as a funder, pricing risk is critical, as is ensuring you're attracting the right type of customers and really giving them a relevant offering. So doing that in a thin market or a thin credit file market it has been something that we've developed over time, and we certainly can illustrate how that is relative to bureaus and other traditional sources. We've got a great track record of being able to do that for that near prime market. Automation and digital aspects of the offering are key. Obviously, in a market the size of Indonesia, again, it's going to be key. And we've been able to do a lot of what we've done on a pretty limited budget, but we've been really successful in applying our capital and developing that capability, and then evolving our offering to market. And the feedback loops there we talk about are how you engage with customers early to get signals from them around their behaviour. They might be excluded and not have a deep credit history or a strong credit history, but being able to give them products and offerings which enable them to access credit early, which then enables them to access it again later on. Those feedback loops in your product features, designs, and then future data sets, which then automate future credit decisions. That cycle we've gone through has been critical to that financial inclusion and our own growth journey. And I think have supported our capabilities, and they're the kind of capabilities we look forward to bringing into this opportunity. So in summary, it's a significant opportunity that exists for Indonesia and its population, as well as one for the various collaboration, the companies that collaborate in the opportunity. Sky Credit does have some capability to bring in and can help that journey accelerate to its natural course, which the government is really stimulating, and then deliver some of those benefits to economic, social, environmental benefits to Indonesia and people within Indonesia. So again, really thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. The pathway we see ahead is one that it doesn't seem dissimilar from the one we've already walked in Australia, and we really look forward to continuing to work with Catalyst on the study and understanding the market better and participating in the discussion. So thank you for listening tonight, and back to you, David. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul. Thank you to all the speakers. We're now going to have a panel session, so I'd like to invite Marshall to come up and sit down with me and Bouclair. And we have some questions that I'm going to throw to the audience first, but then he says, breaking the stage. We welcome the opportunity to hear from you, and we'd love to. You're in the middle, the hot seat, and we'd love to get some stuff. So, as the moderator, who puts his glasses on, I'm going to take the privilege of throwing the first question to Pak Tagu from Bappanas. It's great to see him here. So, the digital industry, on one hand, brings a lot of benefits. I think we've seen that tonight, but it also triggers the emergence of new challenges. So what's the view of the government, Bappanas, on this new and disruptive digital industry, Pak Tagu?
Thank you, Pak David. Especially, actually, in 2020, when we started to develop the medium-term development plan, we have put the digital transformation as one of the mainstream aspect of our development plan. And the way we implement or promote digital transformation is first is to increase the access to infrastructure, for internet, and then for broadband. And then the second one is to increase the awareness of the population, because we have like 210 million people, especially last year, owning a smartphone. Around 77% of Indonesian population owns a smartphone. Then the second one is on how we can capitalize or can take more benefit from this digitalization, and also from this infrastructure for maybe better public services, as well as to increase inclusiveness, to provide more basic services for the population, as well as to opening more economic opportunity. And this way, the government has put the focus on digital transformation for the government sector, and then trade, logistic, health, education, industry, as well as for procurement. So, and we take very serious in this area, because, with the increasing interest from the population to use digital solution, including if I see also about the, now Indonesia is like pinjol, the online lending. This is something that become on one side, we only see the bad side of this, but on the other side, we see that there is an increasing need on how people can access credit in a maybe easier way. So, and providing that we also have multiple agenda nationally, for example, for sustainable agenda, economic growth agenda, and digitalization agenda. Why not we think about one solution that can provide, then can facilitate the achievement of this different agenda with maybe one or two policy, or we can promote collaboration between public and private sector. So this area will be explored more in the future, and we hope that we can start to structure our policies in promoting digital transformation.
Thank you, Pak Tagu. Thank you. And I'd also like to throw a question to Pak Tim, who's here as the Acting Deputy Head of Mission. Congratulations. Pak Tim, when I talk to people about IA-CEPA, they almost always mention agriculture. And I think that's because there's a well-established agricultural trade between Indonesia and Australia. And if it's me, I think about my stomach. But the comprehensive economic partnership is also a huge opportunity for an increased trade in digital services. where do you think that the opportunities lie in this area?
Thanks very much for the excuse me. Thanks very much for the question, and good evening, everyone. Can I say what a great opportunity to talk about and think about digital transformation and the possibilities for increased business partnerships between Australia and Indonesia. I think you're right about agriculture. It's a really great story between Australia and Indonesia, but I think it and IA-CEPA really opened the door for increased agricultural trade in such a way that it feeds into both Indonesia's food security and into Indonesia's manufacturing base. And I think the main reason people talk about that so much is traditionally trade agreements, economic comprehensive partnership agreements like IA-CEPA have been used to really enhance that trade. But you're right, digital is less talked about and digital services are less talked about in IA-CEPA context, but that doesn't mean that the opportunity is smaller in any way. And I think your curve at the start, looking at the past and then the exponential growth in the future is a really, really good starting point for that. And IA-CEPA in that regard, really it provides a bit of a framework for businesses in Australia and Indonesia. It provides them a little bit of certainty, some underpinning mechanisms to have that confidence to trade and invest between our two countries, including by having what are the most ambitious rules that Indonesia's agreed to on things like the flow of data across borders and where data can be stored, but also certainty around consumer protections as well. In terms of the opportunity and where it lies, 10 years ago or so, with a different hat on, I wrote a paper on the transformative potential of branchless banking in Indonesia. And I was right about the macro trend that there was going to be a huge disruption to the way Indonesians are banked and a huge opportunity for technology to ensure that banking services reach the unbanked. But I was completely wrong about what would happen. Everyone back then was thinking about how telcos would disrupt the market. And as we've seen from Indonesia's tech unicorns, and you think about the payments architecture, things have gone a different way. So that's a really long way of saying, I'm not actually sure exactly what the services will be in the future, but I do see the opportunity, whether it's from ag tech to ed tech to fintech to red tech, or any other opportunities emerging, not just in digital services, but from the digitalization of services, that increasingly services are going to be provided through digital means. I think we can't predict what the technology will be in 24 hours time, let alone into the future, but I see that opportunity. And for Australian businesses thinking about the Indonesian market, we've talked about some of those fantastic stats. This is the largest e-commerce market in Southeast Asia. It's the largest digital economy. It's growing in Southeast Asia. It's growing rapidly. You have over 200 million internet users. The digital payments ecosystem, I mean, for an Australian, how frustrating now is it to go back to Australia and not have at your fingertips some of these fantastic apps? And hopefully we'll have one more app thanks to Marshall moving forward. So I think just the macro story, the rapid uptake and adoption of digital technologies in Indonesia, and just the reality that over time Indonesia will grow into the fourth largest economy in the world, that you have rising household incomes, and that you have, including at an enterprise level, a huge amount of opportunity, means that we really want to encourage the Australian tech sector to take a look to, traditionally when Australian businesses have, not exclusively, but traditionally when Australian businesses looked overseas, they've looked to the Silicon Valleys of the world, and we really want them to think about Indonesia, and to think about Indonesia as a way to really gaining a foothold in the 600 million strong ASEAN market as well. Thank you.
Tim, thank you. So that brings us to the unscripted part of the evening. So, questions from the audience, either to Puck Marshall or to Puck Paul or to me. Who have we got?
Zoom too.
Excellent.
Not just from here. So if there's any questions on Zoom, I can read them out.
I'm disappointed. Clarice. No.
David, Can you tell us about the Osborne process?
Thanks, Clarice. The Osborne effect, not named after Ozzy Osbourne. It's a well-known effect whereby you don't buy a new product because you think that you're about to get one that's going to be better. So it was found definitely in the consumer market where some companies made the mistake of announcing a new product before it was ready for release, and then sales just dried up. Because, like, why would you buy, you know, a computer if in 3 months' time one twice as good is coming out? And we see the Osborne effect now in the EV market. In the motor vehicle market, ICE combustion engine cars are declining. And EVs are picking up, but not as fast as ICE is declining, because people know that the future is coming. They're not quite sure about it yet. And so they're just keeping their car a little bit longer. Or they're buying a good second-hand car because they're worried that there won't be any value if they buy a fossil fuel car. And this is actually what kills incumbent markets. It's people stop buying stuff. And another effect is when people announce subsidies. And the Indonesian government recently announced that they were going to subsidise the purchase of electric motorbikes by 7 million IDR. And I would guarantee you that sales dried up almost the next day. I could ask Stephanus from Charge, is that what happened? Yeah, it did. Yeah, I know. An unintended consequence. Yes, so that's the Osborne effect. It pulls stuff forward. It makes change happen faster, but it's not something that people expect. Other questions?
More questions from the floor or on Zoom? Not yet. Yep. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Sean. A question for David Privy, right? Can you share what are some of the practical tips for an Indonesian company to be accepted in the Australian market? Because you obviously have gained acceptance and success, and hence expanding into Australia.
That's definitely for you, Marshall.
Right. So actually, we are just starting our Australian operation. Actually, just this week, our team from Australia, we just hired, just came here in Jakarta, and they are having. And they are having our product trainings and stuff, right? So we haven't really penetrated the Australian market yet, just to be clear. But maybe it will be helpful if I tell you a bit of what we are going to do. Right? Yeah, first of all, the lowest hanging fruit is approaching our existing clients in Indonesia, which is now more than 2,000 companies. And out of those 2,000 companies, most of them are medium to large enterprises instead of small and micros, and a lot of multinational companies too. So we are starting from them who has operations in Australia, and also Indonesian companies who has operations in Australia, right? And then secondly, we are approaching local partners. Yeah, for example, PwC in Australia approached us that they have a program in which it's like an incubator. You pay certain amount of money, but they will assess our company, our product first, and they will tell us if there are anything that we need to fine-tune or adjust. For example, like data residency and stuff, right? Local servers and stuff. And once they see it fits, then they will be selling our solutions to their consulting clients, in which of course, it will boost the credibility when the one offering to the companies is PwC or KPMG or something like that, right? So that's another strategy. And since one of previous recent investor is Singtel, and Singtel is the sole owner of Optus, maybe the second largest telco operator in Australia. So of course we will be working together with them as well, right? Yeah, so basically, I think wherever we are going to expand our business, is always good to have strong and credible local partners.
Thank you, Marshall.
Question over the other side of the room. Please go ahead.
I was going to ask a question to Marshall, but he already explained it. And I'm just going to use the opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Yasha. I'm from WIR Group. We are an AR, VR, AI, that's augmented reality, virtual reality, artificial intelligence company. And I'm looking for a partner in Australia. I guess this is the place to do it, right? So I'm right here. I'm sitting right here next to Sundang. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think Paul is still online from Perth if anyone want to ask Paul anything as well. It's a very quiet room. Clarice again.
I've got a question for Marshall if that's
Oh yeah, we could do that too.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
that's nice.
That's Paul.
Yeah.
Go, Paul.
I suppose that you touched on a couple of the technical aspects about doing business in both markets, data sovereignty and server locations, etc. Are there aspects in terms of operating in both markets that you've found a challenge, but also surprising, I suppose?
Yeah, so to the best of my knowledge, which is limited to our research now, indeed Catalyst is actually helping us to do the research, but it will be done maybe in a couple of months from now. But prima facie, I see that if you're going to expand your business in Indonesia, right, you will need to be dealing with more licensing requirements. Like, I think what you are doing in Indonesia falls within the ambit of innovative credit scoring. So you need to go to the Indonesian Finance OJK, which is the Financial Service Authority, under what is called GIKD, Group Inovasi Keuangan Digital. So it's a group of Inovasi Keuangan Digital Finance Innovation. Okay, I could help you to introduce you to them, of course. They are my good friends because I'm also the vice chairman of Indonesian FinTech Association, and I'm the chairman of Indonesian RegTech Association. We'll be really happy to help you, Paul. As of for my business in Australia, I think the closest one that I need to do is get an accreditation as an IDP, identity provider, under the DTA, the Digital Transformation Agency's Digital Identity Framework.
That's great. This is Networking Live, TM.
Yeah.
Thank you. And on a serious note, that's exactly what this is about. You know, Catalyst has a mandate to crowd in stuff. And, you know, when you get people together in a room, they have common things to talk about and they share their common experiences and they download about the things that they hated about particular things and that helps you do business.
Indeed. Yeah, totally agree, David.
David, we've got Pat Haris on Zoom wanting to ask us a question. Pat Haris, can we get your camera on perhaps? And can our
it's already on.
Oh, beautiful. There we are. Silakan, Pak.
Okay, terima kasih. If I may say good morning, because here in Canada it's already Friday, actually. I just want to say thank you to Catalyst who made this happen. and also that I'm met Marshall since 2016.
Yeah.
I knew them as a Indonesian startup in 2016 now, but now they are ready to be one of the Australian unicorn in digital signature. So I just want to say congratulations to Marshall and also thank you to Catalyst. And I'm sure that this partnership, this economic partnership will be benefiting to both countries, Indonesia and also Australia. I think that's my comments to all of us here. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Paris.
Thank you, Park.
Thank you, Park. Questions? Anything on Zoom?
Not yet.
Anything in the room? Clarice.
Oh, Clarice.
Yeah, we haven't forgotten you.
Okay, I'll actually introduce myself now. Hi, everybody. My name is Clarice Campbell. I'm the lead advisor for skills at the Catalyst program and the national president of the Australia-Indonesia Youth Association. My question is directed to Paul. So I think at Catalyst, and for many of us in the room, we're engaging with a lot of Australian companies who are interested in the Indonesian market, but are maybe still thinking about whether they should engage with Indonesia, and perhaps they have other markets in mind. Can you tell us a little bit about your thought process for choosing to work with Indonesia? And if you had basically any other markets in mind, and why did you settle on Indonesia?
I think there's some of the other markets, the Philippines, etc., have gone on their own journeys. So for us, it's the proximity, the evolution of technology in Indonesia, and I think also what we understand, where the market's at in its stage of evolution as well. So but I think the characteristics that I referred to in the slide, the size of the market is great. We are significantly bigger than where we are at the moment. You've got a clear government alignment with where they want the country to head, and there's a lot of smartphone adoption is at a very high level. So they are at a very attractive characteristics, and I think I think what's made it easy is the engagement with Catalyst. They've really made the process smooth and helped us through that. And in doing so, it's really moving along quicker than what we thought we would in any case. So it's I think the combination of that and collaboration, pre-market entry with the likes of Catalyst has been good to be able to progress that.
Thanks, Paul. Come on, questions from the floor. Doesn't anybody want to argue with me that you're not going to have 100 million electric bikes by 2030, or did you just think that was so ridiculous you're not even engaging? Okay, yeah, that was it.
All right. Should we...
Oh, it's a wrap.
It's a wrap?
It's a wrap.
Before we wrap, however, please welcome the Catalyst Director, Paul Bartlett, to provide some closing remarks.
Okay, so thanks very much everybody for attending first and foremost. It's really great to see so many businesses in the room, particularly as we get on further into the night, and so really appreciate your attendance and your patience and your contributions. I would also like to thank IABC. George has unfortunately had to leave a bit earlier, but to George and the board and the members, thanks very much for helping us organize this event. I think it's really important also to acknowledge the fact that we get the support from both governments. So we wouldn't be here today if we didn't have the support from the government of Indonesia, Ibu Laxmi, Pak Teguh, Pak Haris online, and from Australia, Pak Tim. We really wouldn't be here today unless the governments had the vision to let Catalyst do what we do, and to accept that we're going to be a bit innovative, and we are going to be using essentially what is aid money to work with businesses and to collaborate with businesses and try to develop these relationships with digital businesses, but also more conventional businesses in some more of the areas of trade that we're all familiar with. Just 2 points, 2 reflections from me on this evening's event. Firstly, the point was made earlier that this is all about digital transformation. This is all about the future. I wanted to just put a little remarker down that Catalyst isn't just about services in the future and digital. We do work on those really important areas, those really important trade flows, such as wheat, such as agriculture. I mean, 70% of Australia's investment into Indonesia is still in the mining sector. These are really big, important industries, and we still work there. But the second point, and related point, is we're all trying to think about the future, and we're trying to think about these disruptive industries and what will be of mutual benefit to both countries. So that leads me to my second point. And really, I think it's been fantastic, and this is my last thanks to Marshall and Paul for joining us to provide these fantastic case studies tonight. Brilliant companies, one in Australia trying to come into Indonesia, one in Indonesia trying to penetrate the Australian market. And I think I'll leave it with that point, because Catalyst is about mutual benefit for both countries. So once again, thanks very much for your attendance and your support, and we look forward to seeing you all at our next event, which I think is in the grains industry early next week. But there'll be many more events throughout the year, both in Indonesia and Australia. Thanks to everybody that's joined us online as well. So with that, have a pleasant evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Actually, we have got a last-minute question via Zoom. If Paul Walsh is still online, unless he's logged off and headed home. If Paul's still online, there's actually a question on Zoom for you from Rudy from Perber Consulting. He's asking, can you please explain a bit more into what business activities Sky Credit has done related to EV or automotive sector financing in Western Australia or in Australia? He's trying to see how they can replicate that to Indonesia.
Thanks for the question, Rudy. We provide, the business activities we do are consumer credit products. So that's secured personal loans, unsecured personal loans, car loans, and lines of credit to customers all over Australia. So we have financed automotive financing for a number of years, significantly grown our portfolio in that area in the last few years. It's all done online, all done remotely. We've never seen a vehicle, mind you, and we've financed a significant number of them through distributors and through privately as well. So in terms of the capabilities of replicating, it's really the credit decisioning and pricing of the underlying asset, I suppose, and some of those aspects around the new EV vehicles, and some of the other things we want to find out. So is there what's the value of the vehicle after a few years? What security would you have against the underlying credit facility should you need to collect on that credit facility, or a customer sells the vehicle? Some of the characteristics going to the credit product design will be unique to the EV and unique to EVs in Indonesia. So they're bits we don't understand yet, and we'll look to understand that more through local partners and through the study we're doing with Catalyst. So it's really, there's some similar aspects to financing a secured vehicle or an asset, irrespective of what market, but there are characteristics around those assets that we'll need to understand better. And how long does the customer keep the bike for? How long the life cycle of the bike, and what do they do when they change it? So there'll be a number of learnings we'll need to do, but I think in designing the credit product, there'll be some simple questions we can pose that'll facilitate some of that research in the product design. So we've been financing cars and bikes and caravans and aspects for boats for a number of years, and now it'll be about understanding the market in Indonesia.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for the extra question at the 11th hour, Rudy. That now does bring us to a close, unless there are any final questions. No. So thanks everybody for coming. Thanks to all the speakers. Thanks for the great questions that we did have. I'm sure you all have lots of conversations that you've been waiting to have. This is now the time to have them. Courtesy of IABC, I believe there is beer being provided just outside the doors. We hope you've had a great time, and we look forward to continuing some conversations with you all. So thanks and good night.
Privy has the vision to be the global leader in digital trust, meaning that we are providing verified user-centric digital identity as well as legally binding digital signature. We would like to make sure everyone who would like to create a new bank account, opening up new insurance policy, applying for credit cards, applying for loans to fintechs, or even enrolling to university or applying for a job, do not need to repetitively prove their identity by filling out long and tedious registration forms. While on the other hand, the institutions also do not need to repetitively do a cost-consuming KYC process for the same person that has been verified by Privy. Australia is an important market for Privy because we need to prove that Privy's app is accepted in a developed country, since we aim to be a global company. And Australia is Indonesia's closest neighbor, closest friend, which is a developed market. And me personally have a very deep connection with Australia. My high school curriculum was done in Australian curriculum, and I fell in love with Australia when the first time I visited Australia during my study trip. What we expect from the partnership with Catalyst is that Catalyst could come up with a good market entry study, which is very critical for our business judgment, like in which geographical area we should focus our operation on, as well as which industry should act as the entry point for our expansion there. As well as we expect Catalyst could introduce us to key potential customers or key government bodies in which we need to obtain licenses or certification from. We hope with this partnership with Catalyst, it will also force a stronger relationship between Indonesia and Australia.
Introducing the Indonesia-Australia Skills Exchange, your one-stop platform for training. The Indonesia-Australia Skills Exchange is where Australian education providers connect with Indonesian businesses seeking employee training. Browse through a broad range of training offerings relevant to your industry, either by entering keywords or by industry sector. Whether it's a specific skill or a variety of skill sets, select an offering based on how the training is structured. Short courses are best for those seeking to train in a new skill or skill set in a short period of time, customised to your training request. Micro-credentials suit those seeking online training over a couple of hours. If you are an Australian education provider, you can view businesses along with their requests for training and respond to their requests. Here too, you can post your course offerings. If you are an Indonesian business, you can browse through the many course offerings available or post a specific training request. Whatever your skilling needs, find them on the Indonesia-Australia Skills Exchange.